What's up guys, Jack here, I'm at Tech Videos, and I am back with another Anker video. They just seem to be on it lately with these new releases with a brand new power bank and charger in what they're calling their high power collection. This is not a sponsored video, but Anker did very kindly send these over for me to check them out, and I'll link to them in the description, and we'll do a bit of an unboxing and first impressions. But these are pretty cool. They have some unique features you don't often see. The power bank has two built-in USB-C cables for on-the-go use, plus a C and an A port for charging up to 4 devices all at once, and a 25,000 mAh capacity to get you through the day. The charger can also charge up to 4 devices all at once, and the first that I've ever seen, it has a built-in smart display like we see on some of Anker's power banks, so that is pretty cool. It'll give you some real-time stats. So we'll start with the power bank first, and then we'll move on to the charger later. So here we have the power bank itself. And some documentation in the box as well, but no cables as those are built into the power bank. There it is. It does have a very rounded finish to it. Now it does come in a silver version as well, but this is what you're looking at here is the space black. Now I seem to have misplaced my ruler, I can't find it, but I can tell you that this is 15.7 by 5.4 by about 5 centimeters. So it's about the size of like a tall skinny soda can for some reference. And just to compare it with the Anker Prime 250 watt, which we have looked at here on the channel before, it is a little bit smaller than that. Even though the 250 watt is a much more powerful power bank, the new one isn't that much smaller because a lot of space is going to be taken up by the retracting cable that's inside. You can see it has a smaller glossy front, which I've never been that much of a fan of on the Prime because it just does get really fingerprinty. But if you want to see like a full comparison of the two, then once I've spent more time with this new power bank, I can definitely make that. So let me know in the comments and get subscribed if you want to see that. So just give it a quick weigh as well. It's about 594 grams. So I wouldn't say it's one that you want to carry in your pocket. It is definitely more of like a backpack power bank. Now, as I said, this does have two built-in cables. So the first one is here up top. This is the C1, and this is actually inside the power bank and it's retractable. So if we just pull it out and see how far it goes. So, oh wow, it is still going as I'm pulling. Oh wow, this is really long. This is wow, that is a lot longer than I expected it was going to be. That is 70 centimeters. That's a pretty decent length. You could definitely keep the power bank in like the pocket of like a backpack and then feed this through and charge your phone while you're out on like a hike or something. So it kind of works a bit like a seat belt. Like you pull it out to as far as you need, you can let go and then it just sort of stays there, and then when you're ready to retract it back in, you pull it out again, and then it will just pull itself back in. Then on the side here we have this loop, and this actually is also a cable at the same time, so it is fed and sort of touched through in here, and that is just a fixed length. That is a 30 centimeter cable, and that apparently supports up to 20 kilograms of like weight, so you can use this to attach it to the outside of your bag as well. And looking up close, you'll notice how flat it is, and that it is also braided as well, so that should help make it more durable. Then on the other side, we have the C3 port for using your own cable, and the C1, C2, C3 all support input and output, and we have an A port, which is output only. I do quite like having like a built-in cable on a power bank. It just means that you don't have to remember to take one with you. But it does mean that, if ever one of these breaks, then, you can't like replace it, and that could mean that, you've lost an entire port on your power bank essentially that you can use. But Anker does seem pretty confident. They said they've been tested for like 20,000 retractions and bends, so I guess we'll just have to see how well they hold up. And if you are watching this video in the future and you want to know if they're still working, then just comment below and I'll give you an update. Now, just for the record, I have been using this much smaller power bank quite a lot over the last couple of months since it came out, and this too has a built-in cable, and this one still does work fine, so I will link to my video on this if you want to see it as well. Now this has a total output of 165 watts, which is handily printed on the side. Then when you're using one of these ports at a time, you'll get up to 100 watts from the retractable C1, also 100 watts from the looped cable on the side, 100 watts from the C port on the side with your own cable, and 33 watts max from the A port. Now, when it comes to charging speed, most devices only fast charge for the first sort of 50% or so. And with up to 100 watts from either the C1, C2 or C3 port, then this power bank is definitely fast enough to fast charge most of your daily tech. Now, we'll need to test it out, but Anker says it will charge an iPhone 16 or a Samsung phone to around 50% in 25 minutes, or something bigger like a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air in just over 30 minutes. But the speed will taper down as those devices ask for less power to preserve the health of their own batteries. And you've probably seen it turning on a couple of times in the video so far, but we also do have a smart display, and there is a button on the side for turning that on. And this displays some sort of like key charging stats like we have on the Anker Prime power banks. And Anker does have a new UI for this. They've gone for like a blue theme now with a different font, and there's a cheeky little winking face at the top as well. So with nothing plugged in, it just shows you how much is in the power bank. At the moment, it's 20% out of the box. Then we can also click through to go through the battery temperature. So at the moment, it is a nice cool 19 degrees Celsius, which is probably just the temperature of the house. And this will monitor its temperature for you. So if the power bank does get too hot, then it will display that here, and it will slow the charging down if it needs to protect itself. Then on the next page, we have the battery health, so 100% health and 0 cycles so far, which is reassuring as I have just unboxed this. Now the power bank has a capacity of 25,000 milliamp hours or 90 watt hours, and that does put it just under the 100 watt hour limit that most airlines have for flying with. So yes, you can take this with you on a plane in your carry-on, but that is just a general rule. So always, check with your airline first. But how many charges will this actually get you for your tech? Now, I've mentioned before in these videos that just because a power bank has a 25,000 milliamp hour capacity, that doesn't mean that you're going to get 25,000 milliamp hours out into another device, because different devices have different amps and volts. Now Anker does have a handy little formula, so screenshot this if you ever need it. You take the power bank capacity in milliamp hours, times it by 0.65, and then divide it by the capacity of the device that you want to charge. So for something like my iPhone 16 Pro Max, that would work out at around 3.5 full charges. Now, if you are charging a small device like earbuds or a smartwatch, these kinds of devices only draw a little amount of power, which can cause big power banks like this to fall asleep and stop charging. So to get around that, they have something called trickle charge mode, which you can enable with a double press of the side button. And that puts a little blue dot above the A port on the display, and that will keep the power bank on for those smaller devices. And to disable it again, you can double press. I've always liked these power banks that have the display that shows you what each port is doing when you plug something in. So if I plug in my iPhone into the C2 port, it lights up the C2 icon, and you can see that it's currently drawing just 4 watts, but my phone is at like 99% battery, so yeah, it's not going to be drawing that much power. Now I also have my iPad just in front of me with some notes, so I'll also plug that in as well. And the iPad is currently at 27%, so you can see that is currently drawing 35 watts, which is pretty much the max that the iPad Pro can draw. Now I mentioned that for single port charging, you'll get up to 100 watts from any C port and 33 from the A port. But then for things like 2-port charging, you'll get up to 165 watts shared across any 2 C ports, or 133 watts from any C port and an A port. Then for 3 or 4 ports at the same time, you'll get up to 100 watts from the C1 and 30 watts shared across all of the others. So generally speaking, as you start to plug in more and more devices into the power bank, you want to keep the retractable C1 for your high power devices, things like a laptop or a MacBook, as this always has the most potential output. Then for things like tablets and phones, they'll be better suited to the loop cable or the C port on the side, as those generally only draw around 30 watts max. All of the C ports also support 100 watts in, so to recharge the power bank, you'll get to around 30% in 20 minutes or 100% in 1 hour and 42 minutes. Now I have just plugged this in, and you can see it's currently drawing 90 watts from the C1, and you can see just how quickly it is charging up. It is now at 22%. And it also shows you how long it will take until it's fully charged. So from around 20 to 100%, it will take about 1 hour and 11 minutes. And if you're wondering, it also supports pass-through. So if you plug something in while the power bank is on charge, you'll see that the C1 is lit up in green to show the input, the C2 is blue to show the output, and on the main display, it even says pass-through on the display. So power is coming into the power bank and out to the phone at the same time. So that's cool. You can use it as kind of like a little hub as well when you need to charge the power bank and all your tech at the same time. So if you need a charger to go with it, well, we do have the new charger as well. This is Anker's 140 watt 4-port charger with power delivery 3.1. We have the charger itself. Then we also have a quick start guide and a cable. Again, we have a nice braided cable. It just seems that Anker is now including braided cables by default now, which is really nice. These are going to be much more durable. And this is a pretty long cable as well. This is 1.5 meters. So you can definitely plug the charger in at the wall and then relax on the settee or the sofa. And I don't know if you can make it out, but this is also a 240 watt cable. So this is going to be future proof as well as more powerful chargers come out. So this only comes in dark grey. There's no silver option for this. We have the 140 watts printed on the side. It measures in at 6.9 by 6.9 by 3.6 centimeters. And just to compare with the 140 watt charger that Apple gives you with a MacBook, I mean, that is a pretty substantial difference. I mean, I'd say it's a little bit thicker, yeah, but I mean, the overall footprint is much smaller. And of course, I do have the UK one, and both the US and UK come with folding prongs. So that is going to make it even a smaller profile still. And the Apple charger, you only get a single 140 watt port, but with the Anker, you get 3 USB-C ports and an A port. Just holding both, it does feel a little bit heavier, a bit more dense. So let's just quickly weigh them. So the Apple charger comes in at 302 grams, and the Anker charger, at 292 grams. So that's so strange. It feels heavier, I'm guessing because it's smaller and more dense, but it is actually technically lighter. So yeah, my judgment there was completely off. So yeah, it is very small and compact. And I do love that more and more chargers are coming with folding plugs now, especially in the UK, because these prongs are, I mean, they're very safe, they're great, but I mean, look at the size of them. They do add quite a bit of bulk to the side. So now we can just fold them down and it's nice and flat. But I do need to talk about the port placement, as these are along the bottom of the power brick. So as you're plugging this into the wall, you've got all of your ports down here, as opposed to on the back where they'd normally be, as this is to make way for the smart display. So that could make, plugging things in a little bit kind of awkward, as you're going to have to kind of like, reach down and underneath. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes. But let's check out that smart display. As I said, this is the first time I've ever seen this in a power brick. Let's just plug it in. Okay, it's lit up and we can see a nice little, it was a smiley face and now it's a sleepy face. I'm guessing because nothing's plugged in. So let's plug in the iPhone to start with. And you can see the phone is only drawing around 5 watts or so, as it is pretty much fully charged already. And I've got it plugged into the C1 port. But we can also cycle through. So we have temperature monitoring. So at the time, the power brick is pretty happy with the temperature. It's nice and cool. I've only just plugged it in. And we also have the total output that it is currently putting out. So let's just plug this into the iPad that I've got up here. Now with the iPad plugged in, I've noticed there's this bar showing you the potential output that you can get from the port and how much you're currently using. So because the iPad is currently drawing only 37 watts, that is like less than a third or so of the total 140 watts that you can get from the C1 port. So that's pretty cool as well. So let's now plug the iPhone in as well. And you can see the C2 port has lit up with the charging stats for the output there. And back on the main display, we can see the total output of just over 40 watts. Now I've just found another feature. If you hold down on this touch sensitive button, it rotates the display. So if you are using like a weird upside down or sideways plug, you can rotate the display to whichever way you need. And again, as with the power bank, these outputs will change depending on how many devices you plug in as the power starts to get distributed between each port. And things can get a bit kind of messy and complicated here, but with 4-port charging, you can get up to 65 watts from the C1, 45 from the C2, 12 from the C3, and 12 from the A. And my maths brings that to 134 watts in total, so I'm not sure where those missing 6 watts are, but yeah, in total you can get up to 134 watts from every port combined. But to make it nice and easy, it does have all of the wattages printed on each port, and you even have these little icons as well, so you know to use the C1 and 2 for your laptop and the C3 for smaller devices like your phone. And of course you also have that smart display which is going to show you exactly what each port is doing. But overall this is a pretty, first impressions, a pretty nifty charger from Anker. I mean, I have been really loving the smart display they've had on their power banks for the last couple of years, so I'm really happy to see that finally make its way over to an actual charger. And with the power bank, I am kind of into having these built-in cables that you always have with you now. And it is pretty cool, this like retractable one. Like, I was not expecting it to be this long. I mean, that is a pretty decent length on a built-in cable. But yeah, time will tell on just how durable these are going to be. Both the power bank and charger are £89 here in the UK, or $99 or $89 in the US. And I will link to both in the description. I'm going to spend some more time with these and see, you know, just how worth it they really are. But I will just say, I do think I have just found my new favorite charger. If you want to see like a comparison with, I don't know, the power bank with like one of the Prime power banks, then let me know down in the comments and get subscribed, because I can definitely do that. The Prime has a slightly higher capacity and an even higher total output, which is kind of insane, but it does come in at a much higher price point. So if you are trying to decide between the two on the ultimate power bank, then let me know in the comments and I can make a comparison video on that as well. If this video helped you out, then leave a like, that really helps me out. Drop any other questions you have down in the comments. And if you want to see more tech videos from me, you can subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.